Hello.
Ooh.
Greetings and welcome to our DM deep dive with Aliza Pearl and her underwater campaign in the Sea of Fallen Stars. I just have to say, it's so funny. I realized yesterday when we were talking about your campaign that your name is Pearl, and we're deep
Oh my god.
diving. But we chose to call these little get-togethers with their DMs online. We call them deep diving in the Sea of Fallen Stars with Aliza Pearl. There must be something magical going on here. So
Yes. Oh my god.
something I don't know, but it's all very wonderful. And thank you for being here, Aliza.
Thank you for having me, Tara.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about your campaign. We've got people are very excited to hear that there's an underwater campaign that they can play. Lots of people are super excited about that, about playing, the fishy weird people, and about possibly playing or encountering mermaids. I think that's really what we're all actually saying. So yeah, I want to hear all about that before we go any further. So dive right in. You're coming to D&D in a Castle August 18th to 22nd in the USA. And you're bringing the Sea of Fallen Stars to our players. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Sea of Fallen Stars is a 2E setting that was published in the late 90s. And um, it is a beautiful, beautiful setting book that is very rich. There's lots of lore. There's all these amazing races that are mostly not playable in terms of the weird fishy people that I was talking about the other day. Um, and I just when I started wanting to do underwater things, I found out about the Sea of Fallen Stars book, which is by Stephen Shend, and I got the book off of, I think, eBay or something. And I just fell in love with the lore and how ancient everything is. Like in the beginning of the book, there's this long timeline that goes back like so many millennia. And so you can literally just like pick a place to hone in on and play. And the book, of course, has, they're 2E rules, but they do have rules and ideas of how to deal with underwater penalties in terms of like if you have a character who's not a weird fishy person, how do they interact with the world? Are they slowed down when they try to like swing their great axe and things like that? So I just like kind of fell in love with this idea of updating it for 5e and finding pockets of lore to like really zoom in on and explore and find stories within those pockets.
So if I was, interested in this setting and, fascinated by the lore, the way you're describing, but I really like to play, or I want to bring my own character to the castle, and my character happens to be, an elf or a human or a dwarf or something that is not an underwater creature. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I've run this at least twice at D&D in a Castle now, and I feel like at least half, if not more, of each table I've run it for was not weird fishy people. Some people, yeah, just were like, I have this dwarf character that I want to play underwater, and that's really easy to adapt to. Basically, we figure out, oh, there's a potion you take, or you get some type of blessing that gives you underwater breathing for this, for a week or however long you need it for this adventure. And it's so easy narratively to find reasons that your character would have to go underwater, some type of, maybe you're exploring, maybe you're on vacation as an adventurer and you get sucked into this. Literally, I can think of like 10 reasons right now where a land creature would have to come underwater um, to do this type of adventure. So super easy to work that out for sure.
Cool. Oh, that sounds great. So people could come and play a different thing, or they could come and play something standard. Um,
Yeah, sorry, there's also one more variation where someone, I forget what it was, but, someone wanted to play a race that wasn't represented in this setting, and I had to think like, "Oh, like, I hadn't really thought of options for that, but now that I've spent more time, like, with this setting, having run it twice before, I see more opportunities to include those types of races where we can actually, like, work it into the setting of this world so they can be from Syros, the underwater realm of the Sea of Fallen Stars. So, yeah, there's lots of, flexibility in who people want to play.
cool. Um, I'm wondering about, you said you got the book for the Sea of Fallen Stars. Had you done much playing in Faerun itself, or
Oh
the
yeah.
rest of it? Do you have a connection to that world?
Oh yeah, I mean, when I started playing D&D, it was mostly Faerun settings, and then started expanding and getting to play in different, tons of different settings. So yes, definitely very familiar and comfortable with Faerun as a setting, and have that map seared into my brain from campaigns I've run in Faerun. Um, and yeah, I think Faerun is such a great place to start as a D&D player and as a DM, because there's just so much material. There's so much content out there. Canon, D&D published content, and also independent publishers who have expanded that world for years and years. Um, and so working in Faerun and playing in Faerun so much definitely gave me the confidence to be, someone who is creating independent content in a different setting. Um, and Faerun and all of the content for it, yeah, it helped me to see like what are the opportunities to do the same in Seros, and find like different cool guilds and organizations that people might encounter in their underwater adventures. Um, yeah, uh, yeah, Faerun is close to my heart, dear to my heart for sure.
Lovely. Um, I also want to hear about, you said you've run this twice before at the castle. Um, and I want to hear about those campaigns. Are you reviving what you ran at the castle before, or is there anything new about what you're doing at this time around? What did you learn from the last few times that you ran it?
Yeah, so and I'm realizing I actually ran it 3 times on 2 castle trips. Yeah, because I think one time I went to the castle, I did 2 rounds back to back.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's yeah, I've had 3 tables of this at the castle. Yeah, I did run the same adventure for those 3 tables, when I was at the
Mhm.
castle before. But now, yeah, I'm bringing a new adventure because I want, if anyone who played previously wants to revisit this world, I wanted to have something new and fresh to play in.
Mhm.
And also, yeah, I have been spending more time with the setting and my version of this setting, and learning things and deepening the playable aquatics chart that I have, which by the way, I've decided to just release that on my itch.io.
Oh,
Because
cool. So people can go
yeah,
check it out. So
yeah,
what is your handle there, or
it's
how do people
Aliza
find it?
Pearl. Yeah, alizapearl.itch.io, and it should be up within the next couple of weeks. So
Okay.
basically, I created this PDF chart that has all of these races that were in the Sea of Fallen Stars setting, that weren't playable. They were just for NPCs and enemies,
Yeah.
and I wanted to make them playable. So like there's things on here. Sea Elf was already playable. Sahuagin, uh not quite, like that was considered like an enemy race or species. And then things like Coalinth, the Lokatha octopodes of different types, turtle, selkie, those are all on this chart. And so I basically compiled some info about them, like
Oh, I would
description.
want to be a selkie. Just
Oh, yeah, it was
you
so
got me
fun.
with that
Yes,
one.
I think I've had, like in all of my games, I've had people play almost all of these, and definitely we had a Selkie, and they had so much fun, and it was such a great character. Um, and yeah, there's thankfully, again, there's so much, like that's what I love about D&D, honestly, is like it's all the supplemental content that's out there. It's
Mhm.
so useful, and it's like anything you wanna find, you can find that you need, or you can just create it yourself. But,
Mhm.
this chart has like, I pulled 5e stat options from homebrews that were added to D&D Beyond that I have access to, and I can, like, give my players access to. So that's what's on this chart. I'm gonna revamp it over the next couple weeks and update it, make sure it's really robust, and maybe add a couple more playable races that I pull from the book, if I can find some good ones to include. But yeah, that's what's gonna be on my itch.io soon.
Very cool. We'll be sure to share that link once it goes live, so people come and check out and pick their player for your campaign,
Yeah.
or pick their player race, or make their character if they want to
Mhm.
choose one of those. In terms of that your campaigns at the castle before, I'd love to hear about who the players were. So, like, were they like all forever DMs who've been playing since '92? Was this, or were any of them new players? Where were they from? Like, as people, who were they and how'd they end up at the castle from your campaign?
Okay, so I remember one table in particular had people from Brazil, Israel, and the US. And I think did we have anyone from the UK on that table? I don't think so. But that was a super international table. And definitely some forever DMs, a lot, but also definitely very new players. Like I had a couple at my table who, like, I think this was one of their first campaigns, if not their first campaign. They were super new. And what's great too about, like, the Sea of Fallen Stars setting is, like, it's not super familiar. Even, some people who've been playing D&D for a long time might not have spent a lot of time in this setting. So, it's all new to everyone, really. There's so much to learn and discover about this world and the lore that even people who've been playing and running D&D for years might not be familiar with. So, at that table, yeah, it felt like the new players and the forever DMs and veteran players were all kind of learning about this setting together.
That's so cool. I love that. I love that it's kind of new to everybody. So even if they're, longtime players or new players, they're all kind of discovering this for the first time together. Um,
Mhm.
that's neat. I love the international composition of uh,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
it was
group,
really
and I
fun.
think that's true. That's what people maybe about D&D in the castle is, people come from all over, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes I get questions like, "Are you going to bring this to my particular neighborhood?" It's like people travel from all over the world to come to this event, and that's what's really
Mhm.
cool about the event too. Actually, I think is that it's a collection of a really broad spectrum of people whose common theme is that they all love D&D, or they're
Mhm.
falling in love with D&D, or they want to discover D&D. The focus that unites everybody is the D&D and the passion for D&D, but the people are all completely different, and I just love that. I love that, focused, united passion with the people being so varied and
Yeah.
interesting. I think it's a really cool uh, way of showing that people can get along if we just play.
Mhm.
We have people very different. You sit down next to people you don't you don't necessarily know anything about them, but you can still play D&D. You can always play D&D.
Yeah. Yeah, the rules are you literally universal. Like,
Yeah,
it's a game that people can access, I think they're growing their content, to be in more languages. I'm not actually sure
right.
where they're at with that, but yeah, it's a game that you can access in different lots of different languages, and, yeah, it's a great it really brings people together. So
Um, I do want to ask you about your history with D&D in particular. How did you get into D&D? What drew you to D&D? And what drew you to DMing? How did you start DMing? And what kinds of experiences you've had with that has made you want to take this on?
Yeah, so I actually started playing. I think I played my first D&D game 2016 or something like that. Maybe 2015, somewhere around there. And then in 2017, I was invited to play a Star Trek Adventures game on Geek and Sundry, and that was actually my first TTRPG campaign ever.
Wow.
Um, and I fell in love with this type of gaming and this type of storytelling because I came from being an actor and a writer and an improviser doing tons of improv. And so that part, like the characterization and building worlds with people through improv, I was like, that's what I do all the time. Like I love this part. And then learning the rules was new to me, and learning how to manage like a character sheet, and like building a character and learning what your character can do and figuring out what the long game is for leveling up your character. All that was new to me and I loved it. I fell in love with all of it, like all of it. So that was through Star Trek Adventures. And then from there, I started playing more D&D, playing tons of other TTRPGs. And then within a year, by 2018, I was starting to DM my first, actually the first thing I DM'd ever, which is wild, was on stream, and it was a 6-episode campaign of a game called Overlight, which is like this kaleidoscopic fantasy game with like floating islands and all these different like animal type races. It's like super cool setting. And our campaign was called Fractured oh my god. Fractured Paradox? Is that right? That's not right. Fractured something. Someone will look it up and find it for me. But yeah, so like we did that actually that was the first campaign I did, but I did like a 2 or 3 episode arc on another show on Geek and Sundry. That was the oh my god, it was Becca Scott's and all those ladies game. My god, my brain is mush right now with figuring out names of games I've done. Weave Society? I think it was the Weave Society that was on Geek and Sundry. So they invited me to DM. That was the first time I DM'd ever, and it was on stream. And then I got invited to do another Geek and Sundry campaign and just run it like myself. And that was the Overlay campaign. And then, so bringing it back to D&D, because those were all other systems. During that time, so I started DMing in 2018, did these 2 campaigns, did more like start doing, I don't know if I started doing private games by then, but probably starting to do that soon. But I got invited years ago to do D&D in a castle. And it was probably around 2018. And I hadn't run D&D yet. I had played a lot of it by then, but I hadn't run it ever. And I was intimidated because I know how big D&D is and has become. I know how seriously people take it. I knew it was a whole new rule set that I only knew like a fraction of at that point. So I was like, you know what? Thank you for the invite. I'm gonna go study. Like, I'm not ready to run D&D, and especially not like 8 hours a day for 3 days. Like, I was not prepared. So I basically did my own little D&D grad school for like
Oh,
2
wow.
years. Yeah, and I just like watched all these D&D rules and how to be a good GM and learning all the lore and just literally everything about D&D, from the world building to all the different races and classes and like classes of magic and like literally schools of magic, like everything. For 2 years I did this. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then I got invited again to D&D in a castle, and I was like, you know what? I'm ready this time. Let's do it. Let's go.
Very cool. Yeah. So you took a really proactive approach in like honing and training yourself as a DM. I'm wondering, have you ever run outside of D&D in a castle, any games that you've run or played in? Have you ever anywhere else played in that sort of what we call the round the clock play experience where you play like solid for multiple days?
Yeah, I did play an Alien game one time. My friend basically like, I think it was a lot of homebrew too. He like took some existing Alien systems and then homebrewed his own mechanics from it. And he invited me and some friends to like for us to play in his setting. And it was a 9-hour game. So we were there like all day, had snacks, had lunch, like just had tons of drinks and hydration and stuff. Yeah, so I have done that type of marathon play before. Um, and the best part of that was like I remember for a lot of it, we were just like on the carpet, like on the floor in his apartment, just like with pillows and stuff, just getting cozy. It was nice that we could just like, let our bodies do what our bodies needed to do for it to get through 9 hours of gaming.
Yeah. How does it how do other, settings and patterns of play compare to the sort of 3 solid days back to back at the castle for you?
Yeah,
What would you say
when
makes that
when
different?
yeah, it is quite different. When you're running a game and it's weekly, you as the DM have time to think about what happened. And as the player as well, you get to think about, "Well, what did that mean when that NPC did this and said this and showed why were they telling the truth? Oh, I should have done an insight check." You literally have a week to like think about what happened in the game. And as the DM, that you can use that to your advantage because you can first of all, you can prep, you might have an overall idea of where the story arc is going, but then something happens and your players like bring something new to the table or they do something unexpected and you're like, "Whoa, oh crap. Okay, we're going now this way instead of that way. I have a week to figure out what's going to happen or when they open that other door that I wasn't planning them to go through." Also, sometimes I get ideas from my players, like, sometimes they think things are much worse than they are. They're like, "Oh, this person is evil, and they're doing this and this," and I'm like, they weren't, but I think this character now has had time to like, So, yeah, so there's more time to think about things and even change things if it organically makes sense for how the game is going that far. So the difference is that happens in a more compressed time frame with D&D in a castle and these types of, like, playing for hours and hours every day, back-to-back sessions with 0 like, virtually 0 prep time between sessions. Um, because I'm very much a done a ton of improv and I'm a trained improviser, I can go with the flow, and even though there's not much time to, sometimes, yeah, I bring something else and I do a quick Googling or find some old, like, "Oh, you know what? This, like, they're going through this faster than I expected them to. Let me throw in some other combatant that, like, surprisingly makes an appearance." So that's pretty easy to do if you feel like the pacing is kind of off and you want them to spend a little bit more time in one area. Um, but it's like a feat. It is a mental feat to play these sessions back to back with so little prep between them. You have to,
Do
like,
you
both
feel like,
come prepared and also be willing to slightly
right?
pivot and just, like, go with the flow.
You feel like you've mentioned a couple times you have a background as an improviser. I'd love to hear what your background is in improvisation and theater and so on, because it sounds like this gameplay style of the multiple day campaign really suits your background in particular, and that what you bring from that helps you to be able to deliver a great game at the castle. So, tell us a little bit about your background before coming to D&D.
Sure, yeah. So I'm an actor. I started doing theater in New York City almost 20 years ago, and then I moved to LA. So I do mostly TV and film now, but I have done theater still, and I also do musical theater here and there. But I got into improv like a couple years before I got into TTRPGs. I got into improv, maybe more than like 4 years before. I just again, I tend to have what we call special interests in the neurodivergent community. And yeah, so D&D and TTRPGs definitely have become a special interest, and improv was as well. Like once I started doing improv, I just was like eat, sleep, and breathe improv for like 4 years. I started at well, I actually started at some smaller theaters before I decided to, like, do a more, um, I guess, well-known, but also, like, in LA, there were, at the time, like, 3 or 4 3 or 4 improv schools that were very well known for their programs and, like, known to be the best considered to be the best improv training. So, like, Groundlings is still one of those and still exists, and UCB also still exists, and the other couple I'm thinking of closed down, unfortunately. So I was deciding between Groundlings and UCB. I decided to do UCB because it felt more Groundlings is very character focused and sketch. It ultimately like everything kind of drives you into like a comedy sketch creating program with Groundlings. And I liked that UCB was a little bit more open-ended. Like you can just do the base program of improv and then do sketch if you want to, or you can just keep doing improv and that leads you to lots of other things as well. So I did UCB, did their program, and as I was getting towards the end of their program, I found out about this narrative improv theater group called Impro Studio, and they do basically anywhere from like an hour to an hour and a half improvised play.
Long
And
form
they'll
improv,
be
yeah.
long form narrative improv. They'll be in full costume based on whatever era. So they do like Jane Austen, Twilight Zone, Shakespeare improv. They do like all these amazing genres. And I saw them at a sci-fi play festival. They did Twilight Zone, and I fell in love with that. And I was like, holy crap, I want to do that. This is so awesome. They did this brilliant, like, three short three short improvised Twilight Zone style episodes that were, it blew my mind. And I was like, I want to do that next. So I joined up with them, went hard, eat, slept, and breathed narrative improv for another 4 or 5 years. And that's pretty much where I came from before gaming. That's what brought me into the Star Trek Adventures campaign, because I was
Mhm.
doing an improvised Star Trek show that I
Oh,
like,
cool.
yeah, that I had
Oh,
started
I
at
see. So
Impro,
it
and
started
yeah,
with the improv led into it. Yeah, I think
yep,
it's a great
directly.
background. That's a
Thank
great
you.
background to come into gaming with, for sure. And we're getting close to the end of our time. I wanted to know what you're excited about for coming to D&D in a Castle this August specifically. It's the first time we're going to this venue. It's a new venue. It's in the States instead of the UK. It's a completely different kind of castle, and in summertime. And what are you looking forward to for this castle, this event in particular, and in terms of running this campaign this fourth time around?
Yeah, I'm excited for the castle itself, because I heard from you all that it's like a fantasy castle specifically, not, a medieval actual castle, which makes sense because in the US we don't have medieval anything basically, in terms of European medieval things. So I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be really fun to explore the castle and find like all its cool details and things like that. I'm super excited for who my players will be. Like, I have no idea, what they're going to bring to the table, who they're going to want to play. And I'm excited to bring this new adventure that I'm still crafting it. It's very early in its development. Also because I'm saving some creative space to get to know who the players want to play, like, get some, and also what they're interested in. Like, are they super into combat? Are they into mystery, RP, puzzles? Like, what are they interested in? And then I can, like, really start to craft the adventure itself based on their interests. Um, yeah, I'm excited for all of that. And also, I haven't been to Ohio in years, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, well, we're certainly very excited to have you at the castle. We're really looking forward to being able to play in this new space, being able to meet all the new players, and build a community together at D&D in a Castle. So just before we wrap up, I just want to thank you for joining us, to everybody who's watching, and also to you, Aliza, and leave us with your pitch. And I'm putting you on the spot, I know. So
Okay.
leave us with your pitch of why do they want to come to your game? Why do people want to come and play in your campaign with you as your DM? Who is it that you think wants to come and play with you, that would have an amazing time and the game of a lifetime in this particular adventure at this particular castle with you?
Okay. Well, the tagline is "Roll dice under the sea with me." And the longer pitch is, um, yeah, if you love the ocean and D&D and ancient lore, like, honestly, those are the sweet spots for, I think, who would really enjoy this game.
Mhm.
Yeah, getting, like, really lost in and submerged, into
Telling me all
take
the
a
words are there.
take a deep dive with me into Syros, the underwater kingdom of Sea of Fallen Stars. Yeah, it's all of those things. So, dive in. I mean, how many more water puns can we throw in here?
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Aliza. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to having you. And again, we will post that link to when you post your chart of the playable characters and how to build those for underwater play. And looking forward to hearing more about the campaign as we build up to it in August. If you want to learn more about D&D in a Castle and about Aliza and about her campaign, you can visit dndinacastle.com. You can also email us, contact@dndinacastle.com. You can find us on all of our socials at DND in a Castle, and there is a chat on our, like a chat box on our website if you have questions for us. And there are real life people behind that chat. I always like to tell people that we are not sophisticated enough to have bots to answer all of our questions. So we have real people. So if you have any questions for us, please send them our way. Or even if you have questions for Aliza, we can pass those on to her. And if you choose to come and play in her campaign, you would be connected with her online and be able to build your character with her guidance and help to influence the campaign so that it is customized exactly to be the campaign of your dreams and exactly what you want out of an underwater adventure. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye.
Thanks.